The next day, there was an enormous parade, and I was among the officers who marched. It was such a marvelous sight.
General de Gaulle came and made the Grand March, and no one marched better than de Gaulle.
That afternoon, at the Cathedral of Notre Dame, General de Gaulle would show that he could stand as well as he could march.
Suddenly, sniper fire broke out from all over. Everybody took for cover. People were fleeing in all directions, but we have a strong memory of General de Gaulle just standing up straight and not being fazed a bit by this.
General de Gaulle's march was over, but 3 days later, when the Americans marched through Paris, they would keep right on marching to the front, without knowing that Liberation Summer had ended with Paris.
It is a sad thing about war, how interesting it is for the people who are in one. If you are not killed, war is the greatest experience of a lifetime, because you are living life to the fullest. All of us live our lives at half speed. But in wartime, you are living at full speed.
It was a story to be told and a story to be pictured. And as correspondents, I think all of us have a little bit of pride in the fact when we think back of what we did. And it was a small contribution to the knowledge people have of what war is.
Liberation Summer, as it was lived and told by some of the people who lived to tell about it. Come back to the legacy of the summer of 1944.
Return to Liberation Summer 1944, when our world continues.
Welcome back to Our World and updates on some of the witnesses to the liberation of Paris. Cameraman Jack Lieb, who died in 1978, made his witness a few days after the liberation on film.
The last time I saw Paris,
Charles de Gaulle quit politics, then came back and was president of France from 1959 until 69. He died in 1970. Jacques Chaban-Delmas stayed in politics. He was French prime minister in the early 70s, and in 87 is president of the French National Assembly.
Our Red Cross volunteer went to war and found love.
One day, while we were cleaning out the clubmobile, wearing our GI fatigues and scrubbing up the donut grease that had splattered on the floor, along came a dashing war correspondent wearing paratrooper boots and an Air Force hat. It was John Wilhelm. And 4 months later, we were married.
Life magazine went to the wedding of John Wilhelm and Peggy Maslin, and so did much of the Army press corps.
So Peggy was kissed by a couple dozen war correspondents.
I wish that I could kiss each and every one of you. You want to get us trampled to death so you could?
In March of 87, some old jokes and entertainers got together to celebrate the 45th anniversary of Armed Forces Radio.
And what a ball we had, and what a lot of good we did for the kids around the world. It was just sensational.
Like the men, most women quit the military when the war was over, but enrollment revived, and today 220,000 women are in military service. But not Grace Hopper. Rear Admiral Hopper retired last year at 79 with the Distinguished Service Medal.
There would be other wars to cover, but covering them would never be the same.
I have had an experience in my lifetime. I think of my son, who was a journalist, and he's never going to have it.
In Vietnam, the story was more complicated, and this time the government was less cooperative when the news wasn't good. And this time, television showed us the bloody face of war in living and dying color, right in our homes, every night. And this time, we weren't all in this together. Covering a war changed because war changed. And if the memories of that liberation summer remain unchanged, it is because they are mostly good memories.
We're coming over, and we won't come back till it's over there.
Well, there it is the way it was during the summer that Paris was set free. Consider the case of Dietrich von Holtitz, the general who only had to say "ja," and bridges, government buildings, and monuments all over Paris would have been destroyed. He was court-martialed in absentia for disobeying Hitler's order. No verdict was reached. He served time in a prisoner of war camp in Mississippi, was freed in 1947, later convicted by a West German denazification court for being a Nazi follower. He was ostracized, given a pension, and died a bitter old man in 1966. Damned if he did and damned if he didn't. Well, let's absolve Dietrich von Holtitz of something. At a time when his colleagues were just following orders, he found one that was too monstrous to obey. Merci beaucoup.
In the summer of '44, my father, Lonnie Ray Smith, a sergeant in the Army Air Corps, was 34 years old. He had a wife, a new baby, and was nowhere near France. Nor was he anxious to get shot at. But if his age and his obligations had kept him far from battle, they also had kept him far from that great adventure which he, like most men, had been raised to believe was a part of war. And besides, all his life, he'd wanted to see Paris, France. Daddy kept this secret, mostly. Later, it became our secret. But the trip he always talked about was always postponed because there were always obligations. Daddy said it was okay. There was plenty of time. There wasn't. But 4 years after he died, when I was 34 years old, I made that trip. And once there, this toast. Here's to Paris, France, to the Americans who saw her in 1944, and to the one who never saw her at all. Here's to courage. Liberation Summer and my daddy are gone forever. The salute still stands. And so it goes. Also in the summer of 1944,
the Army and Marines captured the island of Saipan after a 25-day battle that took 3,500 American lives, 25,000 Japanese.
When the Navy recaptured Guam in July, they rescued radio man George Tweed, who had successfully hidden from the Japanese for 2.5 years.
French Air Force captain and author of The Little Prince, Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, disappeared on a reconnaissance mission over southern France. He was never found.
President Roosevelt signed into law the GI Bill of Rights.
In Seal Harbor, Maine, the 80-acre estate of the late Edsel Ford was put on the market, price tag $95,000.
In the comics, Skeezix married Nina, his boyhood sweetheart, at a ceremony in Gasoline Alley.
For a transcript of this broadcast, send $3 to Our World Transcripts, 2 John Street, New York, New York, 10038.
For the Our World Viewer Guide, write to Community Relations, ABC, 1330 Avenue of the Americas, New York, New York, 10019.